So, so anyway, guys, today I'm sitting out in my treehouse and I wanted to make a video and I wanted to talk to you guys about what it's like making content on YouTube, what it's like streaming on Twitch, what it's like making content on the internet for, I guess, what you would call a living. And also, I wanted to talk about some of the pitfalls that a lot of people fall into whenever they either start doing this or whenever they are doing it. I've been seeing a lot of information and a lot of videos and a lot of content recently coming out about people who stream, people who make videos getting depression and getting upset and that kind of stuff. And I wanted to make a video and share my 2 cents with that and also a little bit of advice. But before I do any of that, I want to talk about pretty much who I am and, kind of, I guess, let you guys know where I'm coming from. Asmongold, Zach. I've been making videos ever since I was 8 or 9 years old with my friend's video camera. On Christmas 2001, I was 11. I'm 27 now, so do the math. I was 11. My dad got me a video camera for Christmas, and ever since then, I've been making my own videos. And as soon as I could get those videos online, I did, which is why if you look at this channel and you look at the creation date, it was about 2008. And I used to try to get videos up on MySpace even before that. I did whatever it could, right? I've always loved the idea of making videos and sharing my life and sharing things that I think are funny with other people. I've just always really liked it. And I think that's one of the big differences between myself and also a lot of other people that create content is that I've just been doing it for so long. And whenever you count everything together, it's been an extremely long time. And I've enjoyed it pretty much all the time. Now, whenever I started taking it seriously and doing things a lot more, was probably somewhere around in 2000, probably about 2014 or so, and 2013, like late 2013. I was planning on going back to school in the previous or the following semester in college, and my mom got sick, and I figured I would just make WoW videos and do that kind of stuff because I was bored, and that's basically what happened. So I started making WoW videos, I started doing that kind of stuff, and I really got into it and I really started to enjoy it. And my YouTube channel started doing very well. I started to be able to support myself with my YouTube channel. And then I moved over to streaming in about 2016 or so, like late 2015. But I didn't really take it that seriously then. I would just like stream like maybe once every 2 weeks, or if it was a big week, I'd stream twice. Okay, so I didn't really give a fuck. But I eventually like went back, and I think it was in April of 2016. I started streaming very seriously on a very regular basis because my dad went to he went on vacation, and like I would like usually have dinner with my dad, and then I basically had no responsibilities. I had nothing that I had to do. So I would just come home and I'd be like, well, usually I'd go to my dad's today, but I guess today, I'll just stream. And that's kind of what happened. And, I guess I'll just stream turned out to be something that I've been doing for like a year and a half now. So I've had a lot of experience making content, and I've also had a lot of fun doing it. However, there are a lot of people out there that haven't, and I wanted to talk about that. There's been a lot of content that's gone out recently talking about people that stream or people who make content getting depression. And whenever you think about that, whenever somebody stupid thinks about that, it doesn't make any sense. But whenever somebody who is not a complete moron, not a Neanderthal, or somebody that can't really identify with other people, whenever somebody like that thinks about it, it makes perfect sense. And I want to explain why. Whenever you make content, whenever you put yourself out there, a lot of people, there are some people that kind of, I'm talking about like Dr. Disrespect or something like that, where people have an obvious character that they're playing, and if that character gets hate, that kind of is separated from themselves. So it makes them easier, it makes it easier for them to deal with negative attention in the same way that they can probably still deal with the positive attention in another positive way. So if people hate the character, it's not like they hate the person. But there are also a lot of people out there that put content out as themselves. And with that, I think that there's a certain amount of honesty that every single person needs to put out there, and it should go without saying, but I'll say it anyway. Almost everybody that you see that's making content, there's probably some sort of, I guess, like of a character that they're playing. That if you meet somebody in real life that you've seen their content online, 99 times out of 100, and from my experience, every single time, they're very different. It's people obviously act different on camera. People obviously act different around different people. And this isn't being fake. This isn't being a liar or anything like that either. There are people, it's like you're not going to act the same if you go to a party with your boys as you will if you go to mow your grandma's lawn and have her make you cookies afterwards, right? I mean, you're obviously going to act different around different people. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing weird about that. So, a lot of people put out characters, but some of those characters are much more closer to who they really are. And whenever you put yourself out there and people are telling you that you suck, your content sucks, and if that content is an extension of yourself, they're effectively telling you that you suck. And this can not only manifest itself in terms of negative feedback, but it can also manifest itself in terms of no feedback. If somebody's putting themselves out there, they're doing everything that they can, and nobody's watching them, nobody cares. I mean, that certainly doesn't feel good. That sucks. I think everybody feels that way. And some people are more resilient to that than others. For me personally, I do not. I like having a lot of people watch my videos. Obviously, I do. What can I say? I'm a little bit of an attention whore. Okay, I am, and I have no shame about that either. That's completely okay. In fact, I would say that if you're making videos and you're trying to attract people to watch your videos, being an attention whore might actually be a good thing. But I don't really care about negative feedback, right? I don't. If somebody tells me to kill myself, I just don't care. I don't know who they are. I mean, it just doesn't matter to me, right? A lot of other people don't have that luxury, and I'm not saying that I'm better than them or anything. I think everybody in life comes into it with a certain type. It's like talent points and like Dungeons and Dragons, or like attribute points. It's like you just roll those attribute points whenever you're a kid, and sometimes, or whenever you're born, and sometimes people roll high, sometimes people roll low, sometimes you have more points, sometimes you have less. And everybody is differently equipped to deal with different things. And there are ways that you can learn how to deal with things, and I think that's absolutely something that people should work on and should try to do. But expecting people to be able to deal with harassment constantly, I think, is a little bit obtuse. It really sucks that people act like dickheads on the internet, but let's be honest, guys, it's never going to go away. So the best way for you to deal with that personally is you can either not care, that's what I do, or you can find a way to just either ignore it or not see it. One of those two things is probably going to be better than seeing it and then approaching it in a bad situation. People on the internet and people in general, if they see somebody that's weak, if they see somebody that they can attack or hurt, they'll do it. And it's kind of like sharks with blood in the water. And the way that you overcome that and the way that you avoid that is you don't bleed. You don't let people know what bothers you. You don't let people know what you don't want them to know. If, let's say, like for me, one of the reasons why I'm wearing this hoodie is because without it, my hair looks really bad. And one of the reasons why my hair looks bad is because there's not as much of it anymore. I'm going bald. It fucking sucks, but it is true. And there are insecurities that I'm aware of and I can make fun of like that. And there are other insecurities that I don't really want to talk about. And I don't care if people call me asthma and bald, that's fine. It doesn't bother me at all. But other things I just don't really want to hear about or I don't want to deal with. And so I try not to put those out there. I try not to give people ammunition to hurt me with, obviously. And I would advise other people to do that too. Don't tell people something that they can use against you. And the next thing is isolation. Isolation is something that I think everybody that creates content and a lot of people in general that do any sort of fundamentally, streaming and making content is partially entrepreneurial and entrepreneurial pursuits. You're doing this by yourself. You're doing this all. Usually you don't have like people that are with you helping you, and maybe if you do, it's like whenever you have more stuff or you have more viewers and everything. So you've already had to go over that initial thing of just kind of being there, doing it by yourself, and humans in a lot of ways, people are social creatures, and it's important to have friends, and it's important to have like those social networks and social support systems. And whenever you're spending 6 to 8 hours or maybe less, maybe more hours in front of fucking mosquito hours in front of a computer, it's going to be really hard for you to be able to come out of that and not have that same have that affect you in a way. And I have had that happen to me a little bit, but for me personally, I've always been very well equipped to dealing with isolation. I have no problem sitting in my room all by myself all the time. And the way that I look at it is that like I have friends in real life. I can go hang out with them, but a lot of times I choose to, and I prefer to be alone. And I think that being able to identify who you really are and be able to have that self awareness and be able to identify the self awareness and be aware of that and who you really are and know how to accommodate yourself, I think is really important. And I think a lot of people don't really do that. They neglect their own mental health, really. And that's why I take days off occasionally. It's not like I really can't stream, right? It's that I feel like at a certain point it kind of burns out my mind, and I need a couple of days, or not really a couple of days, usually a day, just to recover and to recharge. And I come back, I feel better, I act better, I look better, and everything's better. And I think that really it it's personified by myself, and people see that, even though it's not something that I'm consciously trying to do. So I think that being able to deal with isolation is probably one of the biggest barriers that people who create content have to face. If you're sitting around all the time in your room and you're surrounded by people who are either telling you that you're great or people who are telling you that you're not, yeah, you're a piece of shit, both of those are going to give you a very warped perception on reality. There are people who they have like 40 viewers on Twitch, okay? 40 viewers. Roll out the red carpet. They are the most important person in the world. And it's like there's nothing more cringe than that, is there? To me, I think it's pathetic. But the truth is that there are a lot of people that feel that way. And in the same vein, there are people who are getting 3, 4, 5,000 viewers, and they think that they're a piece of shit who's failing, right? And I mean, in the grand scheme of things, they're not. So I think that who you surround yourself with and what you look at and how you let what you look at affect you oftentimes will define you as a person. And it's kind of like you're a mirror of what you see. And, or you mirror what you see. I don't really know entirely what to do about that for a lot of other people because other people aren't as lucky as I am. I've had some of the same friends for my whole life, and I hope that will continue to be the case. And I try to just be a good person, a good guy, somebody who you want to be friends with. And I find that that works, right? Other people aren't that lucky. Other people don't have, lifelong friends that surround them, and they don't really have that. It sucks. And my best advice is try to make friends. And if you can, try to make friends with people that that are in real life. I think it's important to be around other people, right? Whenever I went to BlizzCon, it was really fun, and I think that was one of the big reasons is that I was around other real people. It was great. Um, Other than that, I think those are probably the two main things that depress people in terms of like making content and everything. But there's something that a lot of people who make content don't like to talk about, and that's money. A lot of people, they're going around and this goes both ways, but it's mostly like they're poor mouthing around. They're like, oh, I need money to pay for my headphones or something like that. It's like, bro, you've got like 2,000 subs. Like, you're single. You live in an apartment. Like, you can buy your own damn headphones, right? Like, to me, that shit is stupid as hell, right? I mean, if you want to, and I don't know, like, I understand that like other people have other responsibilities, right? Of course they do. But at a certain point, it does seem a little bit ridiculous whenever some people are always asking for money and everything. And also, I think that based off of like what creators disclose, um, uh, people get a very warped perception on how much money people on YouTube and how much money people on Twitch make. YouTube, in terms of like viewership and everything, Twitch, like you just make a lot more money on Twitch, assuming you're not like one of the like really really big popular YouTube people. But Twitch does make a lot more money on average. For me personally, I was able to pay for all of my expenses, and I pay for a house. I pay for all the utilities in the house. That's the backyard that I'm in right now, sort of that house. I pay for all of that. I was able to do that with just my YouTube money, and Twitch was all pretty much just on top of that. So I'm doing just fine. I'm not really too worried about it, and I also don't really take myself too seriously. Uh, like now that I have like money to pay for things, it's like maybe I'll get the deluxe hot dogs next time I go to Walmart. You know, like I mean I'm not a fancy guy. I'm not an extravagant guy. And I think there's a lot of other people that should be more like that. But they're not. And most people try to live outside their means. They try to make it seem like they're, doing amazing or something like that. And it's like you don't really have to show off, right? Like I don't feel that way at all. And the problem with a lot of people that get into making content, one of the worst things that I ever want to hear, like something that I hate to hear from people, is, "Hey, I quit my job to start streaming on Twitch." I think that I would be less disappointed with that person if they said, I spent my kids' college savings on lottery tickets. Okay? It's a very, very bad idea, and I would recommend it for nobody. Now, I kind of circumvented that problem by not having a job in the first place. But for a lot of people, it's very important to have a plan B. And, as you guys know, I have like a college degree, and so it's not like streaming is the only thing that I've ever done. But also, streaming is by far the most successful thing that I've ever done. Now, this is a problem with like sports too. Is you have a lot of people who see people in like the NBA or see somebody in like the NFL, and this person is making tons of money, and they compare that to, I guess, people on Twitch or something like that, and they see the people that are on the top row of Twitch or on the top front page of Twitch, and they're like, wow, these guys are getting, like, this guy got like a $5,000 donation last week or something like that, and they see that kind of stuff, and they just assume that that's normal for everybody. And the problem is that the people that are the most visible are also the most successful. What you don't see is there are a lot of people who are struggling to get by, yeah, with less than 1,000 viewers or something like that. And obviously, some people can get by with much less than that, depending on the type of content that they create and how they monetize it. But as a general rule, there's basically everybody outside of that top front page of like pretty much any mid-sized game. I mean, League of Legends obviously would be a little bit more, PUBG would be a little bit more. A lot of those people are probably struggling, right? And that sucks. And that's why it's really important that, and I tell people all the time, it's like, if you get into this, right? I mean, this isn't. There's no safety nets. There's no real welfare with this. It's not like you're guaranteed to get a certain amount of viewers. Everything that you put into it is what you get out. And there are, of course, people who like leech and people who do other stuff like that, sure, or whatever. But for the most part, it's people that put in a lot of work. They are the ones that get a lot out of it, as a general rule. So if you're getting into like making videos or streaming or making content in general for money, I think that's a big mistake. I really, really do. And I would not recommend that for anybody. And just because you see a couple of people who are very successful, that's, I mean, like, look at the rule, not the exception, right? I mean, you see, it's like, isn't it like 1% of people who stream on Twitch, like 0.1% are partnered, right? I mean, it's insane. So I think it's really important for people to realize that and not go into it thinking that they're going to make a ton of money or anything like that. I think the best way for people to like get into streaming is to do it for fun, and then if they can make it a part-time job, do it. And if they can make it more than that, well, that's their decision on where to go. So that's pretty much the way that I look at things, and that's the way that I see it. And I think that there's a lot more to talk about with this, and the video's already like 19 minutes long or something, and I could go on for another 30. But I think these are the most important things that I wanted to talk about, and hopefully you guys feel the same way, and hopefully this gave you a little bit of insight. I've been thinking about making more videos talking about more of the meta of content creation and streaming, and so if that's something that you guys want to see, I'd be very curious to hear that, and I might actually do more of that myself. But until then, that's pretty much all I've got. So, peace!